provoke,
change,
catalyze,
freedom,
ironic,
choices,
energize,
crack open, decisions,
galvanize, amuse,
ideas,
shock, know that laughter is wonderful for your health and your breathing and your immunity and your stress levels and your tension in your muscles. We know that. This is more to bring the power, the cutting edge power of stand-up comedy to quieten down those parts of ourselves that are too loud and leading us astray by dominating the other parts of ourselves who are dying to have their voices heard as well. The loud parts of ourselves are parts of our personality that have been described as subpersonality, subselves, agencies, and all sorts of number by dozens of psychologists, are simply parts of ourselves such as the inner child or the inner critic or the inner pusher or the inner achiever or the inner panicker, whatever it is, that we allow to be too loud and dominate all the other rational, kinder, better parts of ourselves. And this is a problem because as soon as one voice grabs the megaphone and dominates all the other voices, the other voices tend to shrink away. So a person becoming a highly unbalanced individual simply by going with that part of themselves that is too loud and just allowing it to happen and not even realizing that it's happened. So what this is all about is when you are induced to laugh at the sub-self that is too loud, often by the provocative approach is, or the almost happy approach would be to praise that sub-self, to give it, to say that sub-self is the answer. And then the individual will start to realize, no, I can see that's part of myself, and laugh at the sub-self that is too loud and leading them astray. And when you are induced to laugh at the sub-self, even if you don't realize it's the sub-self, if you laugh at the part of yourself that's holding you back, you are more conscious of that part while you're laughing at that part that's holding you back. And that's the process, because previously that sub-self or part of yourself being unconscious had much more power over you because it was indirect, but we didn't realize it. Now we understand it and we see it. The sub-self shrinks at the laughter and it shrinks at being seen by the whole individual. And, if I'm absolutely honest, you shouldn't say if I'm absolutely honest, it means you're going to lie usually, but I can honestly say to you, really, that there's part of me feel that I understand theater of the absurd, because to me what it is that people are walking around straight-faced in a world that looks absurd to me at some level. It looks absurd that they're going to work and buying expensive cars and buying things on hire purchase and going into I don't understand it. It looks crazy, and I feel slightly it's my duty to hold up a comic mirror to it. You see? So, I do believe that. Okay, I do believe that what looks normal out there is actually bonkers. That I have to admit, I believe that. Well, the key to the getting away with this approach is that the golden rule of provocative therapy as defined by Frank Farrell, that is affection in the heart and a twinkle in the eye. So you need to smile and you need to exude a lot of warmth with the process. And it's very tangible in the room, but it's even possible on Zoom and electronically, is my view. But in the room, it's very tangible. And this is what Carl Rogers, the great founder of counseling and client-centered therapy, he always maintained that the important factors which determine rapport and healing in a therapeutic relationship are threefold, and they're all in the therapist. They are empathy, understanding. Without understanding, forget about it. And more than understanding, that sort of feeling of what it might be like to be in the client's shoes. It is authenticity. Everything it has to say has to be absolutely real. You can't just reel out positive formula and canards. And finally, what he called unconditional positive regard, which I would call as love. It's warmth and the real feeling that the person who is working with you wants you to do well. Once you feel that, If you do that strongly enough, if you exude a feeling of love and I want you to succeed and I believe that you can succeed, I believe you can succeed, without saying that, but exuding that, person will take anything. They'll let you laugh at the subcells. It's amazing what they'll let you do. And sometimes it's not even obvious to other people listening in or watching because they don't feel it. It isn't as if that the whole process isn't coming at them in the same way. They're seeing it at a distance. Sometimes when I've explained it, when I've demonstrated it, people have said it, didn't you feel insulted when you said this? And the person looks in horror. No, not at all, because they were so feeling that I was on their side and wanted them to do well. They didn't feel a thing that anything I was doing was trying to undermine anything important in them. So yeah, golden rule, affection in the heart, a twinkle in the eye. There you go. And it's more than affection. In my view, I would elevate affection. I would elevate it to exuding, warmly exuding the confidence that that human being can become more who they are meant to be and that they can do it. But by what I'm going to do, I'm going to laugh at the way you're not doing it. I'm going to laugh get you to laugh at the parts of yourself that are holding you back and the divine comedy of that.
So I think that there's a bit of a difference between you and I here, and probably because of where my background comes from. So my background comes from doing a bit of training in playback theatre in San Francisco. So playback is where you retell a story. So somebody says, in a sense, what they want, but they really are saying what it is that happened to them. And then a group of actors kind of reenact that. And I did that training and I loved it to pieces. I love doing all kinds of different sort of psychology, like that, family constellations, all of that stuff. Because my original background is in theatre, but I was a stage manager, which you might class as a shadow career. So the desire to be on stage, I ended up behind the light instead of in front of the light. Now, not all stage managers do that because I'll get hate mail if I said that's true. I loved stage management, but I equally loved being on stage. And I left that because I fell in love with transformation, and that's why I got into theatre. It was the transformation that I could feel in an audience when they got something, when an idea happened and a spark, and you could almost feel it. I worked on a show called Blood Brothers. Right. And it was tangible, like just from the music or the up bit at the beginning towards the end, and it was tangible, you could feel it. And I knew that storytelling created a real consciousness change. And my love for transformation then took me into personal development, because at the time I was reading a ton of self-help books. So I got involved in personal development. I became a radio presenter and an agony aunt. So people would phone up with problems and you don't have very long to be able to answer these problems. And at the time I was using a really high level of intuition. So having gone from that and doing that in magazines, and then I had my own TV show, when you and I met, it was kind of like when they met, it was murder. And if you're old enough to know Heart to Heart, you will understand the reference. But when I started to see the work that you were doing, I was like, this is kind of like the work that I'm doing, but without the provocation. So I was already running this kind of thing on Clubhouse in the stand-up intuitive show, but I didn't have the provoking element of it. I was just doing it intuitively. And I think now, from having worked with you and learned from you, I'm doing the provocation funny stuff, because it is hilarious. I just have so much fun. And mixing that with the intuition. Tell me about your intuition, because I think you're highly intuitive as well. And I think when you talk very much, and you've hammered it in, but you've talked very much about getting permission and how important that is, but not only getting permission, but this warm-hearted, really being almost like in love with the person, putting yourself in their shoes, this high level of empathy. So your intuition is absolutely there too. Tell me about the first few seconds. The person has told you what they want, and then you go into it. Tell me about what you're sensing, feeling before you speak. What comes to you?
Yes. In asking permission, basically what I'm asking permission to do is I ask them permission to say crazy things, absurd things, scatological, eschatological, absurd, vulgar, whatever it is. But really what I'm asking is, do I have the permission to visualize your life as a movie, as you describe it to me, and then subvert that movie? I'm going to make that movie. You know how someone like a director or a writer can make something funny that isn't necessarily funny because of the camera angles, the timing, everything is going to subvert that movie. It's not going to take your life story too seriously, but I'm listening. But you know something, when I trained in provocative therapy, some people were saying that and I didn't quite understand it. Some people imagined that they were what Frank Farrelly would have said to the person, then saying something like that. I never did that. I didn't even understand why anyone would do that. Then the others that said they could see TV monitors, or on the TV monitors they could see the person's life, and then they would change that route. But to me, it almost feels like I'm entering a three-dimensional movie of the person. As they're talking, I enter into this world. I think it's a hell of a cliche going down the rabbit hole, but because it's used in a lot of ways, but it is more, it does resemble this Alice in Wonderland. Like Alice in Wonderland, Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. It describes a very sensible young lady that makes good decisions in spite of absolute craziness around her. All the buttons are around her. Every button you could think of, every crazy, rationalizing, violent, head chopping off queens. It's everything is around her, and yet she responds properly. So I enter that world. Now I could let the person speak quite a while, but sometimes I just feel I've entered it and I just respond blurting out immediately, because if I don't blurt out immediately, I won't have that opportunity to do it in that moment. So it is so in the moment, it is so in the moment that it almost makes me feel that other therapies, you're going and you're thinking, and yeah, I've studied Freud and Freud would understand it like this. No, it's as if when I saw there was such a thing as remote viewing, I wondered a bit about it, because sometimes I've noticed things in what I'm seeing in the original movie that I don't subvert, that the person says, well, how did you know that? How did you know it was like that? You see, how did you, whatever. And
you see, I can answer that, and that's because we're all part of a collective consciousness.
Yeah.
Like I can hold an object and be able to describe stuff that I absolutely shouldn't be able to know. And I actually think that when people kind of go, oh, isn't that weird? I go, what's weird is the fact that you're not doing it. Why wouldn't you be doing it? I find that so weird. And actually, I think that we all can do this, but we don't trust ourselves. And what you're saying about that blurting it out immediately is because we don't want to get the brain involved with the double think. So, you know, but we don't want to suddenly go, oh, I'm a bit worried about saying that. And that's also why we need to ask permission, because stuff kind of comes out, and it might be that you kind of look back on it and reflect on it and go, ooh. But when we speak to the person afterwards and they go, that was incredible, that was spot on, and you ask them how do they feel, the response that we get is usually that they feel great, or they feel changed, or they feel inspired, or they feel different. And because for much of us, we try and fix a thought-based problem, like you're talking about, these loud voices in our heads, and we try and fix them with another voice to try and get the secondary voice to be louder than the first voice. But you actually can't solve a thinking problem by thinking, because then all you're doing is replacing one protecting subpersonality for another protecting subpersonality. Meanwhile, the observer of the thoughts can't get a feeling in edgeways. So by doing this, and people describing how they feel afterwards, gives you and I an indication of what the observer has taken from it. And I always describe the observer as being the part of ourselves that is sober when we're pissed us apart, because that part of ourselves is always sober when we're absolutely pissed, boringly rat-faced drunk, heading towards the bathroom, holding onto the wall. The awareness of being sober is always sober. And so I think that in the work that we're doing on Clubhouse, and we will take this onto stage and do it in corporately or wherever anyone wants to pay us, we will go. When we're doing this, we are creating a disruption that allows that observer to be able to take a course correct. So Brian, your photo on Clubhouse has a fish. You now have a fish in your head. So tell me about the fish.
But this fish head, this enables me a certain freedom to speak with a fish head. It's an alter ego. It's very much me in many regards, but a little bit more outrageous than I would normally be. There's some people think I shouldn't wear the fish head, but I do like it. I do feel it frees me. Maybe I should wear it on Clubhouse, even though people can't see me wearing it, to fix my head, you know. But
I thought you were.
You thought I went. There was There was a trendy girl that was really trendy. She used to make lights and she did very well. She said I should have gone in this outfit to Harley Street. I should have walked into Harley Street wearing this outfit. She said you would have done very well if you did that. That's okay. So the fish head gives me a lot of freedom. It's an alter ego. It's a cartoon character that has permission just to see, to look at things. Let's say look at things in a person's life and just look for fun, for a sense of ridiculousness. At some level, I had to learn so much in order to forget everything and just be who I am in the moment. And remember that that's why I became a doctor and why I really want to help people. There's nothing to me more beautiful than seeing a person start to grow. It reminds me of when you see those flowers on TV that are unfolding, the miracle of that slow photography, to see a human being unfold. And I realized that I'd always want to do that. I'm not interested in retiring. I always want to do that. There will not be anything more beautiful than for me to see. And it feels like a privilege. You know, I really feel that what I'd like to do is to be like Lear's fool and serve a king, like in other words, or a queen. It's who jesters served. Is in a way we're giving sovereignty to other people in this sense. I'm going down to the court jester, making fun of the parts of the person that are holding them, but they're sovereign, they're the king, they're the queen. That person that should emerge, that I'm trying to provoke, what we're trying to provoke to emerge. And I can feel it in you. That's what qualifies you to do this work. I genuinely feel you want it for those people, even if you never see them again and you never heard that they did well and found the right boy, that girl on last night found the right man and opened up. You'd want it. You'd want to know it happened even if you didn't hear any details or got any credit. I know that. That's the key. That is the bottom line for this work, not for your own fame or anything.
Oh, shit.
Something beautiful.
Where's my button? When will I be famous? I need my button. You're absolutely right. God damn it, Brian. I was only doing it for the crack. But I think you're right. And I've been doing this for 20 years and you spotted that in me completely. So I absolutely, that transformation that I used to see in theatre and then see it in a person, that light bulb moment, that expansion, that getting it, that eyes open, that thing. And even when you can't see it, you can hear it in the voice. Yeah. And it cracks me wide open every single time. It cracks me wide open because it's not just a thing that I do. It just is actually who I am.